Hello. Today, on the first day of the third week, we are going to be talking about central idea. Now, central idea is the most important idea that the author wants the reader to know. So, what is the author saying, and what is the reader taking away? What does the author want the reader to know? Now, there are 3 steps to make sure you have a good central idea. First step is to read and pay special attention to the text structure, and we'll talk about that later, to determine the topic of the sentence. So, what is the topic or the subject the author is discussing? 2, ask yourself, what is the subject and what does the author reveal about the subject? So, if my subject was my weekend, what do I want you to know about my weekend? To double check, turn your central idea into a question, and the details from the passage should answer that question. So, my question would be, what did you do this weekend? Every detail I would say afterward would answer the question. Now, this might be slightly confusing, so I'll go through some examples. Now, we do have the remembering rules on the top, but for this quick passage, it says riding a bike is great exercise. It improves your heart health. Plus, research has shown that when you ride a bike, your stress levels will decrease. Most bike riders have higher self-esteem and live longer. Go ahead and take a break and write your central idea. Pause the video and then play whenever you are ready. The central idea that I came up with is riding a bike has both mental and physical benefits. You could turn that into a question because my subject is riding a bike. And I'm revealing that it is good for mental and physical health. A detail that talks about the mental health is it will have higher self-esteem and reduce your stress levels. A physical benefit is it is great exercise, helps you live longer, and improves your heart health. So my details answer my question. Let's try again. But first, a video. Now, quick thing to notice. Moving from the younger grades to the older grades, what you learned as main idea is the same thing as central idea. So here's the ultimate main idea song. is all about. We're trying to figure it out. Here's what the author wants to say. Here's what the reader takes away. Here's what the text is all about. Here's what we're trying to figure out. Now, while that song may be stuck in your head, maybe use it as we work on the next story. So, our passage is, to many parents, the infant's cry may be mainly an irritation, especially if it continues for long periods. But crying serves important functions for the child as well as for the parents. For the child, crying helps improve lung capacity and the respiratory system. Perhaps more important, the cry serves as a signal of distress. When babies cry, they indicate that they are hungry or in pain, and this is important information for parents. Go ahead and pause and find your central idea, asking what is the subject and what does the author want you to know or reveal about the subject. Turn it into a question to check if your details prove your answer. Now, this is a great example of how sometimes the central idea is actually already written for you. I would say that crying serves important functions for the child as well as for the parents would be an amazing central idea. Because you have the central idea of the subject being crying, and what it wants you to know, what the author would like you to take away, is that it is important for the child as well as for the parents. Child, you have improving lung capacity and the respiratory system, as well as for the parents, letting them know when the babies are hungry or in pain, giving important information. Last but not least, we have this lovely story. There is a common belief that while the dog is man's best friend, the coyote is his worst enemy. The bad reputation of the coyote traces back to his fondness for small animals. He hunts at night and is particularly destructive to sheep, young pigs, and poultry. Yet it is sometimes wise to encourage coyotes. Provided valuable farm animals are protected, the coyote will often free the property of other animals, like rabbits, which are ruinous to crops and certain trees. He is especially beneficial in keeping down the rodent population. When coyotes have been allowed to do their work without molestation, ranchers and fruit growers have found them so valuable that they would no more shoot them than they would shoot their dogs. Go ahead and pause here, figure out the subject and what the author would like you to take away. Turn it into a question and see if you have your answers. For this, I would say that coyotes are both good and bad on farms. You can back that up by saying they are good for freeing the property of other animals like rabbits that ruin crops, as well as rodents. And I could say that they are bad because they often hunt at night and can eat sheep, young pigs, and poultry. Taking the central idea out of a paragraph is awesome, but there are other times where you can learn what needs to be done. So we will go to our language arts notebook, and either you can click the central idea link if it works for you, because I know some people are glitching out, or you can scroll down to page 59. Now, before, during, and after reading, there are tips and tricks you can look at to see what your central idea is about. Go ahead and take a few minutes to place these bubbles where they need to be. So let's say I'll give you the first one. Title, you would look at before reading, because oftentimes the author will title the piece something that is important in the story. Go ahead and pause me and come back whenever you are finished. However, I'm going to keep going. So, another thing to do before reading is name a person, place, idea, event, or thing that they focus on. Understanding what they're talking about before they're reading, whether that be on illustrations, whether that be on titles, whether that would be something you notice, is always a great idea. However, during reading, you want to determine whether or not it's fiction or nonfiction. Nonfiction will definitely be more factual and have dates and times, whereas fiction will probably lack those. Make sure you are not having a historical fiction and thinking that it is your nonfiction. Additionally, look at text features. How is it written? What is it trying to show you? And lastly, what are some repeated or common words or phrases? Oftentimes, just like in teaching, if someone repeats it often, they really want you to pay attention to that fact. That leaves the reflection piece. So after reading, what is the most important idea or thought about the topic? And what would you tell a friend about the passage in one sentence? So if you were to summarize it, how would you do it? Like before, there is a video that walks you through it. That is all for this class period. I hope you had an awesome day.